That's kind of what it feels like, Wolf. The Suns showed up to start the series last night. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker played well. They're down 1-0 in the series. Problem is Minnesota's already in the second round. In fact, only one team has been eliminated from the playoffs, and it is your Phoenix Suns. What is going on?
I just never saw this coming. I never did. I don't know about you, Luke. I just never saw this coming at all. Kind of like my microphone right now that is falling all over the place. I never saw this
mic's
happening
just piling on
as well. I just never saw this coming in regard to the Phoenix Suns getting swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and bring back what we thought was going to happen, shall we? How about this? I think I had the Suns in 7.
Yeah.
That's what I had right there.
I had the Suns in 6. I thought they were going to show up.
Suns in 7.
I didn't think they'd make it past the second round because I thought they beat Minnesota, though.
Yeah, Mal, what did you have? As a matter of fact, did you have Suns in 7 as well?
I don't even remember what I had after this past weekend. All I know is I won Kevin or Devin both days.
She came back and won the whole thing right at the very end.
Okay, this is why you never talk about flipping the switch. Okay? This is why you never talk about flipping the switch. When the playoffs...
it might be broken?
Yeah, when the playoffs come, and you know what? You'll see us when the playoffs come, right? When the playoffs come around, you're going to see us flip the switch. I know basketball is not football based on earnings. I know there are 82 games in the basketball season. I know it's a long season period, but you're either a dog or a competitor, or you're not. You're either a dog and a competitor, or you are not, period. And that was the most disappointing thing that I think I saw in this series. You know who the dogs were? The Timberwolves.
You know, I said this last week when the series was 2-0, and it didn't look good when they were down 2-0. Minnesota's a good team. They are not the 95-96 Bulls, okay? They're a good team. They're not amazing. They're not historically great. You should be able to come back and make this a series on your home court, even if you don't ultimately beat them. And I said this, I tweeted this out before the game last night, and I don't even know if anybody agrees with it. To me, at least win a game. That makes a difference to me, a very small difference. Like, we're not going to look back in 5 years and be like, well, hey, they lost in 5 games instead of 4. That's awesome. But come on, man. Like, win a game.
This is what I'm saying,
swept by Minnesota? Show up and win a game.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, though. This is the most discouraging thing about this, brothers. Game 3 and 4, are you going to tell me they weren't ready to play? The Suns were ready to play. You could see it. They came out with the requisite intensity level. They were ready to go. There's no denying it. They were ready to play. Games 3 and Games 4, and their effort, you could see it. It was there for all of us to see. That's why I say the T-Wolves. I'm looking at the Timberwolves right now. Oh, what a bunch of dogs. When you sit there, you tell me Game 3 right now. T-Wolves are up 2-0. The Phoenix Suns come out. They know exactly what they're up against if, in fact, they lose that game, Game 3, on Friday night, right? They know what they're up against. Nobody's ever done it, by the way. 151 series. Luke Lapinski, thank you very much for the stat.
Now it's 152.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever come from being down 3-0 to come back and win a 7-game series in the association. The Suns knew what they were up against. They came out and they were ready to play. And guess what? The Timberwolves never trailed in that game. Game 3. Never. And the Suns were, once again, trying. They came out with an effort level, an intensity level, a physicality. They were ready. Okay, here we go. And the T-Wolves never trailed in the game, yet had a 24-point lead themselves at one point. Of all human nature, of all the reasons the T-Wolves could have said, hey, we're up 2-0 in this series. You know what? We're going to come out here and no, they smelled blood in the water.
This has to be to then get to Game 4. And I thought the game last night was just like, okay, here's a first-round playoff game. Both teams, you know, whatever version of them you look at showed up. Like the Suns, I get that it was really only 2 guys, but that's kind of the Suns. That's kind of the way they're built. But they showed up last night. It was a back-and-forth game. I lost count at 23 lead changes, and they lost. Okay, well, that to me felt like the first real game of the series. You played a decent game. Minnesota beat you. Okay, now come back in game 2. But the problem is when you throw away the first 2 games and you're just as hard as you play in game 3, you're not really in it. When you don't start the series till like game 3 or game 4, you're probably not going to win the series, especially against a Minnesota team that was just hungry.
Yeah, once again though, Luke, that was the thing that really bothered me is the intensity level. I've been calling for the Suns to be ready to play, and they were ready to play. In game 3 and game 4, they were ready to play.
But they weren't in game 1 and game 2, not for the full game.
You saw the difference in game 3 and game 4 as opposed to game 1 and 2. That's what you're saying? Yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying if these were the first 2 games of the series, like if last night was game 2 of the series and the Suns were down 2-0, I'd be like, okay, but there were some good things there. Like maybe Booker's heating up, maybe they can pull this off. But when you just punt the first 2 games of a playoff series, you're done.
Yeah. And I'm sure the Suns thought they were trying. I'm sure they thought they were trying.
Well, then they're fundamentally not as good as Minnesota.
But you have to really think about this. The whole flip the switch mentality, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine when we get into the postseason. Right, Basin Earnings? I mean, this is what we all felt. I don't know if the players I doubt the players felt this way.
No, I don't know that a lot of fans felt this way. But we're going to take calls in about a half hour. I think a lot of fans with about 2 months left in the season were like, this team, there's something wrong.
Yeah, the one thing that bothered me, a lack of leadership, I think, from the Phoenix Suns. That bothered me. We'll get into this a little bit deeper as we go along here in the broadcast. But flipping a switch, when the playoffs come, you'll see us when the playoffs come. Man, I'm telling you right now, that is so... That mentality becomes your culture. That mentality, we're gonna turn it on when we need to turn it on. This is the reason why you can't make this part of your culture.
This is why this gets weird. Like, okay, we got ESPN on a couple of the TV. We've got 4 TVs in the studio, right? And I'm guessing one of them's already done it. They're just showing KD. How bad is this for KD's legacy? How much of this is his fault? I'm not saying he's not part of the problem. Obviously, they just got swept by Minnesota. But when you talk about guys that weren't flipping the switch, KD played 75 games this year. He was up in the top 5 in scoring in the NBA for most of the season. I don't look at KD and think, yeah, that guy was load managing and taking it easy and then he flipped the switch. I just don't think these pieces fit together. But if you're talking about flipping the switch, I feel like KD played all season.
Yeah, can I just say this, though, right now? It's not just the tangible base earnings. It's not just going out there and competing in between the lines. It's what you do with everything else. The intangibles that you bring, the leadership that you bring, the tone that you set for everybody else throughout the week when you're not actually competing, when you're not out on the floor, when you're not in between the lines. It's a mentality. And guess what you saw? This series, you saw the Minnesota Timberwolves mentality. You saw it from game 1 to game 4. How consistent was the effort of the Minnesota Timberwolves?
They looked like the Suns a couple years ago when the Suns were in the playoffs for the first time in like 10 years, and they were like, we just want this more than the team we're playing because we haven't been here in so long. It was Minnesota's first series win in 20 years. They never let up. Even last night when Booker went out for 49 and KD was hitting everything for a while there, and then you would look up and Minnesota was increasing their lead because every time down the floor they scored.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.